Dude, it was Crashville. It shouldn't be Nashville. It's just Crashville. Like,
That's a really good nickname for it.
yeah.
Yeah, it sounded like last year was very similar.
Dude, last year it claimed Barsha, Anderson, Cooper Webb in the heat race, and that was just another freak deal.
Was that on the Dragon's back? Was it that one?
Webb was coming out of a 180 bull turn and just lost the front end, and then seeing Cirillo, wrong place, wrong time, just ended up drilling his head.
Okay.
Barsha was off the Dragon's back, just went to, Indonesia and just went end over end, snapped his collarbone. And then Anderson did one of his vertebrae in a rhythm section last year. So I don't know if there's a black cat roaming around at night in Nissan Stadium or whatnot, but it's just crazy to see back-to-back years at Nashville just be riddled with injuries among top-level athletes in our sport.
Hopefully that's not the case moving forward next year, because it seems like the venue, the turnout, the excitement around that race is really big. So I hope this doesn't become one of those kind of like curse things where everybody starts not wanting to go there, and that almost affects everybody there, because you're kind of thinking, oh man, is this going to be like last year again?
For real. Yeah, the vibe I've never been to Nashville, but the vibe and everything I hear about Nashville, it's sick. Like the nightlife. Yeah, the race itself was pretty cool. Granted, the track design could have been a little bit better, but there's some really unique options during last week's race, like the double across the start straight, and then out of that right-hander, they were doing that triple, and that's where we saw a pretty freak ordeal.
Yeah, man, that was so surprising. One, to catch on live TV and during the main event of a race, which when I first saw that, I immediately thought maybe radiator hose or something, just all that white smoke. It didn't even occur to me it'd be maybe a shock issue until after you see him kind of go through the whoops and how bad the bike starts handling through there. But immediately it kind of got my wheels turning, like what could have happened? Because on that level, there's so much detail and care and effort that goes into every part on that bike, and especially the suspension for it. So it was really, I started going through my head thinking, there's no way in hell that was either assembled wrong or something was going wrong on the shot, because it would have happened much earlier. Like he would have made it through practice or qualifying if something was defective or faulty from the go point, So it really just made me kind of think to that next couple of days of what could have been the source of the issue of what led to that.
Dude, for sure. And like my reaction while watching it live was like, what in the heck just went on? Like, this is so crazy. And it's, to what you said, it's very, very rare that we see a malfunction like this on live TV in a race setting. I mean, I can't think of a catastrophic failure such as a shock blowing out ever. And I mean, I've watched Supercross pretty much religiously over the past, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, here and there we see engines go like in a mud race, and that's almost to be expected. A factory bike and on a quality team, such as HEP Suzuki, quality suspension tuners with Matt at Active Ride, it's just so bizarre. It's just a freak accident. What happened to Ken Roczen over the weekend.
Yeah, because it seems like ever since Ken has gone to Suzuki, and then ever since they started linking up with Active Ride, how well he's been riding, how well his bike looks has just really improved a ton. So it seems like they've done everything right in terms of getting Ken on the bike and getting him comfortable and getting him with the right people. So by no means does show any evidence of just lack of effort, poor quality, or a faulty part. It just seems like one of those freak accidents that happens. And man, my heart breaks just as like an enthusiast for Ken, and then just all of the people involved on that team.
Yeah.
Because I understand what public perception is, but I don't think they quite get or understand that really nobody's at fault here at all. It's just one of those things that happens, and like you just feel bad because it's not representative of the effort that they're putting in over there.
Yeah, and it's a bummer to see anyone hurt in any sport, but especially in our sport, these guys put their lives on the line every time they swing a leg over a motorcycle, and to watch a guy like Ken Roczen ride is just, it's so awesome to watch. Like the way he just rides the bike around a track is like something I could watch myself all day long. And just to see that happen when he was riding good, he was in second place just behind Tomac, shaping up to be a good main event. And then,
that triple was awesome.
Dude, it was so sweet. And I remember on lap one, I don't know if Tomac and Kenny both had this and in their mind on the parade lap before the main event, but they both jumped the double over the start straight, and I was like, what the heck? Because I didn't see them do it in the heat race. So I was like, okay, like I didn't know if Ken just followed Tomac off that double or if they both just happened to have that in their mind on the parade lap. But it was cool to see them do that. And then the triple right after was like, dude, it was so rad because I don't think anyone else did that before the main event all day.
Yeah, I didn't see it on the I didn't see it in the qualifying race or the heat race, and I didn't see it in the qualifier, at least on film wise. So it could have happened off film that we didn't see. But man, it shows how talented those guys are. That if they didn't even do it, but they have the confidence and ability to just bust it out during a race when your nerves got to be at an all-time high.
Yeah,
as well, to think that clearly and do that line on such a short notice.
dude, for sure. And it seemed quicker. Like if you were to jump the triple, you could skim the whoops rather than double singling and then jumping through the whoops because you're not carrying as much momentum.
That too.
The starter whoop.
Yeah, and imagine doubling and then jumping out. Your bike's going to land and want to recoil back up as you enter the whoops. So I could see why they'd want to double, single out, and then continue jumping through the whoops.
Yep.
Because the bike's naturally going to want to respond that way. After they land, it's going to want to rebound back up. So it's not going to give them a great drive to set up to charge through the whoops versus landing from that triple. They're probably landing so hard the bike was already still pretty squatted and just beginning to rebound as they enter the whoops.
Yeah.
Which probably gave them a really good setup for it.
Yeah. Just to circle back on the Ken Roczen ordeal, it's crazy seeing some of the photos of like the oil flying out towards his Fox Racing Instinct boot, the circlip flying out again towards the boot as well. Like,
right.
What'd you make of that?
Crazy, just because circlips are such a simple component and they're incredibly strong. Like when you install the circlip properly and you're applying a, what would this be, axial load to it, it's really hard to get a circlip to come out of its groove. So the fact that we saw that, I talked to a couple of friends over the week that just have some friends in that camp, and the word is that they believe the casting mark on the shock had maybe split open or broke a little bit on the nitrogen tank side, and that is likely what allowed the nitrogen cap to escape along with the circlip as well for that. And for that to happen, that's, again, I think just bad luck. I don't even know how you inspect something like that.
Yeah.
Meaning the bodies are made, they machine the inside to a nice finish. I'm sure they have many inspection processes as these things go through. So the fact that that happened, just don't see that happen on shocks. I think I have seen one nitrogen cap shoot out one time before, but this was easily 15 years ago at a local practice track.
Yeah.
And who knows what had been done to that shock, over the course of time. That's not really a good indicator. The other thing that comes to mind, and you brought this up, was Dungey's shock losing pressure before the race one time. Yes. That was an air shock.
Yes.
So that's one failure we saw, but he didn't even make it to the race. And then, coincidentally, Ken Roczen on the RCH at Glen Helen, he had a sensor in his fork that was reading pressure in there, I believe. And I believe that sensor started leaking some air from it, and he was on air forks.
Yeah.
So his fork started riding really low in the travel.
Yes.
Again, I don't think that's really reflective of any tuner, Showa, Suzuki, or the team. It's just one of those things where, man, shit happens.
Yes, and for all you out there, please stop saying it's Suzuki's fault. Stop, Suzuki doesn't even make the shock for that bike. So it's just silly seeing some of those comments out there online like that, where it's just like, dude, I can't help but just shake my head.
Yeah, man, because that's, if anything, I don't want to say it's on show, but they're the ones that manufacture the shock, and they choose the vendors that they source materials from and who manufacture it for them, or whether they make it in-house. But even then, you don't commonly see this from Showa. They have an awesome name, and stuff is going to happen. I'm sure shocks have leaked in the past during races and stuff, but you just don't see them fail like that. And a shock that's leaking oil does start to get harder to ride, but nothing like what we saw Ken. And the fact that Ken almost made it through those whoops.
This close.
That is a lot of talent.
The injury diagnosis is he broke the tibia plateau, his foot, and his toe. None of which, as of right now, requires surgery, which is a good sign.
Cool.
But obviously that is as of right now, so there may be further evaluation done on those injured areas of his foot and leg just to make sure there's nothing else. But good news so far that there's no like meniscus, ACL tear, MCL, any of that stuff. So still just cross our fingers at that point. Unfortunately, we won't see him for the rest of the Supercross season, but I hope to see him for some WSX rounds, maybe a couple Pro Motocross rounds if he can fit that in his schedule. But yeah, just a bummer to not see the 94 on the gate heading to Philadelphia for the first time.
Yeah, we need him out there, man. He's a guy you can't count out, and when he's on it, and he keeps everybody else honest.
Yeah.
It was really fun shape racing up between him and Eli. I was really excited to see where that was going to go. Eli was looking great. I'm partially surprised Lawrence caught up to him.
Yeah.
And passed him just because Eli was looking good. Eli seemed really happy. Not to get off topic, but that was cool to see because normally he's not a guy that gets second, and you see him happy. He looks pretty pissed to get second.
Yeah.
I was just happy to see him just like happy. It looked like he had a fun time racing this dirt bike.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see him coming back to that point after such a shitty ending to his season last year.
Yeah. I wonder if he's at the age now where it's like maybe obviously he still cares about the results, but I wonder if he's at the age now where he's like, you know what, if I'm happy with my riding, I'm happy at the end of the day. Because sometimes, when you're 24 years old, in a position like a Chase Sexton, if you're not winning, you're not happy. I wonder if Tomac is now kind of flipped the page in his book where he's like, you know what, like if I ride good, like I'm just stoked to be here, stoked to have the opportunity, a factory bike, just loving life.
That'd be very human, because we all appreciate what we have, but you appreciate even more when it gets taken from you. And then when you're given the opportunity to kind of earn it back or to earn it all back.
Yeah.
And it definitely was taken from him last year in terms of the title. Chase earned it for showing up and being there each weekend, but man, Tomac earned it by usually winning out majority of the weekend. So it's just a bummer to see that's how it ended. And I think he's maybe a lot more just appreciative. Not that he wasn't appreciative, but just really appreciating the moment of where he's at now as a racer.
For sure. Well, we'll wrap this one up before we get too off topic. But yeah, any closing thoughts?
Check your bike, like just as a people that ride dirt bikes, for an easy way to improve the safety of the sport is check your bolts before you ride every time. Grab an 8, a 10, and a 12 socket, or a Torx 45 and a 13 if you're on a KTM. And it's any bolt you can visually see, man, just throw a wrench on it before you go ride. Check those. Bolts get loose. Give your forks a nice little visual inspection. Are they wet or moist anywhere to show you any sign of leaking oil? Same with the shock shaft.
Yeah.
Just small things like that can go a long way in terms of improving our safety. We all accept how dangerous motorsports are, and it's not really if, but when you crash. So it really helps just to take any steps you can to really eliminate those accidents that we can kind of prevent by just taking a few extra seconds in that. But again, not saying they did not. Like that had nothing to do with that. But I'm glad it wasn't worse, man, because that, not saying this would have happened, but that shock could have failed to where the clevis separated from the bottom and the whole shock would have come apart. And that wheel would have separated from the motorcycle a lot more. Whereas you can see him going through the whoops, the wheel still tops out and then recoils back up a little bit, showing you that the actual shock did not disassemble from here. The oil was coming from the nitrogen tank side on it. So for as bad as it was, kind of a good case scenario for how catastrophic of a failure it was.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said. Not only on the safety aspect, but the shock as well. Just very glad, and I'm sure Ken's very fortunate, although it's a bummer situation, but fortunate that it's not worse, like it didn't happen over the double across the start straight, Supercross triple, or anything like that. Good to see him come out relatively unscathed, although, we did mention the broken foot, some other things, but yeah, we hope to see the 94 back on track soon.
Nice.
Sweet.
Well, thank you guys for watching, as always.
Sweet. Take care.